And then I thought it was the one with Bruce Willis, where it's 6 monkeys or 12 monkeys, what it's called.
Thank you very much for joining this episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the 6, 12, or any number monkey, Andy Dalton.
I don't know the name of that film.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us. We dive into some cinema's best. We're coming back here to talk it out. Andy, this week, it's Halloween.
It is indeed.
Happy Halloween.
Genuine Halloween.
So, in celebration of the season, celebration of Spooktober, we are here to look at...
Spooktober, I fucking hate that.
The Exorcist.
Right.
What is The Exorcist all about for lovely people at home that might not know what The Exorcist is about? I doubt there are very many of them.
Exorcist is about a girl who gets possessed by Pazuzu.
That's the name of it, isn't it? I looked it up afterwards and I was like, it's said in the recording, I think, but it's never made explicit in the film that that's who it is.
You'll see the scene down here where it's called Pazuzu. I'll say it to her and she's like, fuck you on about like this. Anyway, Futurama. So, it's about a girl who gets possessed by a Pazuzu, a demon. And it's like, it starts off thinking it's an illness, and then the mother realizes, no, it could be something like more religious. They get a doctor in who's what's he called? A psychologist.
Psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist. I always get those two mixed up. He's like losing his face sort of thing, and then he's just lost his mother, and then he comes in, he's like, shit, I need a bit more help. And then it escalates to an end scene where they try and get rid of the demon. Keyword, try.
There's an exorcism.
Yeah. So where do we start?
Notorious because the film did a lot of stuff in its time of release. This was like a early 70s film.
1973.
Did a lot of stuff that pushed the boundaries of what was expected and what was thought to be acceptable in 1973 film. More importantly, did it with a gravitas, so it couldn't just quite be like tossed to the side. Instead, it had to kind of be looked at as a piece of art, and has gone down in history as one of the best films of all time. Probably not even one of the best horror films of all time.
I always remember Mum saying this. Like, I watched The Exorcist when I was very young. It was all films there. I don't need to watch The Exorcist because it's terrifying. We all, as Andy said at the start, people should know what The Exorcist is about, because pretty much everyone who, especially if you're interested in the film, knows what The Exorcist is about, because it's one of the most spoken about. It's one of the most what's the word? People draw. It has
influential.
Influential, like legacy and stuff. But also, it's been like scary movie and stuff. What's it called?
If parody,
that's it.
But if you can cast your mind back to 1973 before it had come out, people did not know what to expect.
Yeah, and some of these effects in this, man, fucking hell, they still hold up today.
And I think that the film overall is a film that draws a lot of mature filmmaking technique, but then layers it with the sort of thing that you expect from horror films in a really restrained way. It's actually got a few key moments of like horror iconography, and then it backs off.
I, hands down, thoroughly fucking enjoyed this film to the point of like, this is one of the best horrors I've seen. And I know I don't mean to use that cliche because it's The Exorcist, but I didn't expect, when it came to this, I'm not going to lie, I expected to go straight into the bedroom scene and this girl's just doing all this rad stuff.
Yeah, I didn't expect the whole thing in Iraq.
Yeah, I know. This has possibly one of the best pacing of any horror film I've ever seen.
Yep.
Because it just goes through, and the tension as it builds up, because obviously it happens, the stuff in Iraq, and then that layers way into like the stuff with his mother. Then it layers
you
way
have
into
the whole slow burn of like, this is their day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
This is the thing that they're risking. Like, it gives you a reason to care about the victim of the possession.
And like even then, with her, like it starts off with a bit of illness, she just get a bit scratchy sort of thing, but then it gets worse and worse, and then it starts like escalating to the point where her face has changed and stuff, and then it gets fucking insanely mad. And then towards the end, you're having these like kind of horrific, horrible moments where it's just like mumbo jumbo language, and like it's disturbing.
It is, and I think sometimes horror films now they try and like throw so much disturbing imagery at you that you become numb to it.
Yes.
What The Exorcist does is it very calculatedly paces out its horrible moments. And the perfect example, the one that probably hit me the most, because it came out of left field, wasn't expecting it at all.
Was it the stairs?
When she comes running down the stairs.
I'm
almost feel bad for you guys, me putting it down here right now.
I know. Oh, it was. I didn't expect that.
Because
I didn't know that.
Until that moment, the horror, the creepy elements have either been contained to like, the doctor's office or whatever.
Yeah.
But like most of it, the supernatural
Little flashes
stuff,
of
it happens in the bedroom. And you almost feel as a viewer, you get into this comforting rhythm of like, oh, well, it's going to happen in the bedroom. When you go in the bedroom, you prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
When they're downstairs and you're not expecting
The rest of the house is your safe haven.
And the rest of the script at that moment is about something else. And then
horrible.
suddenly you're hit in the face with this horrific imagery. And the film, again, knows exactly what it's doing because it gives you this little bit of respite by cutting to black. And that cut to black almost becomes comforting to you as the audience because you're like, I'm not looking at that thing anymore.
Me and LS Morag were just like this.
Yeah.
Like, I was on end, my eyes, like hairs on my back and stuff because that didn't, like you said, didn't expect it. It was fucking terrifying. Even like the whole head turn scene, even like the whole like throwing up and stuff, the bed when it starts moving and stuff. And I think what knocked me on the most is like towards the end as well is when the priests are visibly like scared. Like there's a guy like he's breaking down the toilet going, oh my god, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And another thing, so I didn't expect I didn't know the end with the priests. I didn't know what happened to them. And like that was like fucking hell.
Yeah. I think that whole sequence, it's got this lovely sort of use of implication as well, where characters keep getting killed off screen.
Yeah.
It happens to the director.
So it
becomes
makes
this little mystery of like, did this thing happen to the director?
But
It
also
starts to
unsettled when
imply
someone's
what's
in there
happened.
alone. It's like, oh, what can happen to him?
Yeah, exactly. And like, it wouldn't have been satisfying to watch what happened to the priest at the end.
Yeah.
But when you come back into the room with the young priest, and you discover the body as he discovers the
And
body.
he goes around her and you can see like him look at the body in her, and then her reaction and just like laughing. It's like,
And I love that this entire film also kind of forgoes the idea of physical conflict. Instead, it's sort of like an internal existential conflict.
Yep.
Like it doesn't matter that at any point the spirit could overpower them. It doesn't matter that they could like physically beat up a young girl. Like what happens at the end. Even the idea of like tying her down doesn't matter so much. It's more symbolic. Instead, it's always about the conflict is always about these two forces that are pushing and pulling against each other. And I think that comes across more so in like we have probably the ultimate culmination of that in the sequence where they're throwing the holy water on her.
Yep.
That has gone down in history and
the
is
power of Christ compels you.
it's probably quoted every minute of every hour of every day somewhere around the world where somebody is throwing water on someone and saying the power of Christ compels you.
But it's intense. Like that scene there when it goes on for like nearly a minute of them two just shouting and just staring on their face, and you can see like the young priest. I'll get the name of him here. The young priest is probably like it starts off like
I've been calling Rocky.
I can kind of see why.
He's a boxer. He looks a bit like Sylvester Stallone.
That's what she said, to be fair. And it starts off quite like kind of reserved, and then towards the end he's proper like the power of Christ compels you.
Yeah.
So he is Jason Miller is that guy, Dr. Karras.
Which he gets it like on
Father.
the edge of frame, doesn't he? He gets this like sort of like the focus isn't actually on him, but he's going for it.
I know.
Whereas the older guy,
Max von Sydow.
By the way, enters the film like he enters the film like Clint Eastwood swaggering on a set in his full like man with no name get up. He enters the film as this badass, the guy who they've had to pull not over retirement, but like he's clearly kind of like getting out of the game sort of thing, and they pull him in for this last job, and he turns up and he gets like the sort of the beauty shots of outside the building when it's foggy, the lights pouring through the mist.
Yeah.
Taxi pulls up and drops him off, and then he gets like to walk in. They don't do a face reveal on him at first. Obviously, we've seen him in the opening sequence.
Yeah.
But regardless, they treat him like this very sort of special entity.
And he is. One thing I would like to note as well is just again going that power Christ compels you scene. Just to go back is the use of camera work and something she picked up on. It's disturbing again to use the word disturbing. It's unsettling because you got a scene and it slowly edges out as if to give you more perspective, as if to say, yeah, but you're not seeing the bigger picture here,
yeah.
and like look for it and sort of thing. And I was there now, like once you mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, fuck this. Every time it zoomed out.
Similar, obviously, this would have an effect on things like Halloween at some point as well, with that similar use of handheld camera work. There's some lovely stuff in the opening sequence just to make you very unsettled with what he's looking for as he's digging around in a
Even
rack.
when he's handing that crack, I was thinking, if someone's going to get him there.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to normal contemporary horror it does that kind of jump scare. But this, it was almost like, I'm going to put my hand in a dark place, nothing's going to happen. But it's just unsettling as fuck.
And then, the music.
Oh my God. What is it?
Actually, before we get to music,
Summit Bells.
the audio design is something that...
Yeah, well, it won an Academy Award, didn't it?
It's so restrained. I cannot believe how much quiet and how much silence they are so confidently using in this film.
It's mad, isn't it?
Every single element of it just is pushed back. It's stripped back. Everything about it is quiet and subtle when it needs to be. And then obviously you get this thoroughly iconic. I mean, don't want to harp on the idea of iconography too much, but like you get this thoroughly iconic music that you can play it to anybody and they go,
yeah.
The Exorcist. Yeah, it's only used once.
Yeah, a tiny bit towards the end.
credits.
It's very, very subtly. No, there's a scene that's ever so slightly used. It's very quiet though, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm trying to find it here. It's the Summit Bells. I think it's called Tubular Bells.
The most impressive thing about it, I think, is that in that one moment or two moments where it's used, it's not used to help build the tension.
No.
It's not used to help terrify you in any way, other than to emphasize the underlying feeling that the protagonist is going through. Because she's walking down the street and she's clearly going through a lot psychologically, and that's kind of why the music is there to help you get pushed further into that mindset. But it's not there for any sort of visceral meaning.
The one of my favourite moments is an old game I used to play called Warcraft 3, and there was this thing called Who's the Murderer? And you play these peasants, and one of them was a murderer. And when he was near you, there was two music. They used the Exorcist theme, and they used Halloween theme, like, da, 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 da. And when you hear that music, you just go, fucking killers near me like this. It was absolutely brilliant. I think I mentioned in Halloween, episode in Halloween, how it was the same thing. But that, again, iconic for me because I just remember the music and I'm like shitting myself in like watching the film thinking, the peasants after me. Do you know what I mean?
It's just, I think, in a lesser filmmaker's hands, this particular piece of music would have been all over the film. It would have been used constantly. But
that's it. That is this film for me. It's like I said, going back to the pacing, it's so slow and methodical. It's so like it knows what to use when, it knows how to use it, and it knows just how to fuck you up in the head in terms of like creepiness and disturbing moments.
And then, of course, all across the board, everybody's giving a killer performance.
Oh my days, it's insane.
Everyone from like our 2-3 priests, all the side actors, our protagonist, whose name I can't remember right now. Actually,
you mean the girl Reagan?
Yeah, no, the protagonist, her mom.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
She is like giving, because normally like a female representation in a horror film becomes very like screamy, very shrill, and they very much keep her away from that as much as possible.
Ellen Burstyn.
Amazing. And then the girl that plays Reagan,
Linda Blair.
How do you get a kid of that age to perform the way she does?
It's mad, isn't it? Well,
absolutely stunning.
You hear the age-old story of she got fed milkshakes and said it was all like this, but even some of the stuff like, imagine like performing in a film, and like as she did, and then you've been too young to actually see the film because it's that disturbing. I would not want my 12-year-old, I think she was 12, I wouldn't want my 12-year-old to, if I had one, to see this, let alone like a 15-year-old or something like that, you know.
And what, she makes this in like 1973. I know in the UK it wasn't allowed a home release until 1999.
Really?
So it wasn't allowed a home release until she was like, what, 26? 36?
I was going to say, yeah, she was 12 when she did this.
Oh my God.
No, she's 36 plus 12, so it'd be 48. 1973 brought out. Don't matter.
I'll do the math. He's going to carry on.
She was 12 when this was filmed.
Carry on. Just fine. I'll do the math.
But like some of the special effects they used in her as well. Like imagine how much prosthetic makeup they've had to go through each day to get some of the stuff on her face. For her to do that and then perform these amazing scenes, and everyone else to be on point as well. I mean, it's claimed to go over budget. So I checked the budget on it, and I think it's one of the highest grossing horror films. So the budget was, I think it was 12 million.
I thought it was 70 million.
No, the budget's 12 million. And it brought back 440 odd million.
Right. I mean, they went over budget, I know.
So Warner was straight up on it. Warner was thinking, it's going to be a bit of a flop like this. And they eventually opened it to wider cinemas. Again, this is just me trawling through Wikipedia for actually more stuff about like how that girl managed to cope with the kind of film and stuff. And then I was reading about it, and they used this release, like the way they opened it to a wider audience, because they didn't want to at the start because they didn't think it'd be that big. They used it 2 years later, whatever, on Jaws, and that's why Jaws was so successful, because they let it open to a wider release because it was a big horror film. I was like, how fucking cool is that for like just a little bit of shinfo? Not exactly shinfo, but really good info.
Yeah, because I mean, this obviously comes out in 1973, which means it's like right around the corner of the birth of the blockbuster. Yeah. So we hadn't quite got to the idea of flooding theaters with one film across a summer. Obviously, other little things about it before we wrap this up. Atmosphere, the whole film's stunning. Just the visual atmosphere that it creates, like thoroughly throughout every element of the film. There's all the stuff like we mentioned earlier with what's his name getting out of the car. Yep. That whole last sequence where they're in the bedroom and you can see the breath coming out of everybody's face. Where apparently they'd had to shoot in like sub-zero conditions in order to get that breath constantly coming out of everybody's mouths as they're talking.
Yeah, because they're always freezing, aren't they?
It's a film that just, it oozes style, it oozes class, but also it takes every single element of itself seriously and doesn't ever go for a cheap shot.
She was 39 when the film was officially released on home release.
It's not 38. You can let us know in the comments below. But there is The Exorcist. You can let us know what you thought of The Exorcist, either on Twitter or down in the comments. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week.
36. My maths is terrible.
Where we take a look at 12 Angry Men.
Yes, I can't wait for this.
Until then, get watching.